This is literally a success story. This is from chains of slavery to millionaire. How is this not like their billboard should be like her? Okay, welcome. For those of you who are joining or are now watching the little clip that I do when I take this thing apart, I am your brother in Christ, a Christian YouTuber who focuses on apologetics through logic, science, and history. So that is who I am, although Gen Z Apologetics over here, now that I've got your fancy little banner going, and I forgot about that in the first video, which was my mistake. You want to go ahead and introduce yourself, just in case people have joined us that are not yet familiar with you.
Yeah. So I grew up not really caring about religion. I mean, I grew up in a Christian home, and I've always thought Christianity is true. But besides thinking it's true, I just really didn't care. I thought I would grow up, doing whatever I wanted, and then when I became old, then say the sinner's prayer, and then go to church. And age of 16, I gave my life to Christ. I didn't really know where to go from that point. So I found a couple Billy Graham sermons on YouTube, as we all do. And that made me stumble upon Ravi Zacharias clips, and I've been studying apologetics ever since. And now I try and talk to other people, because in my generation, especially, apologetics is very scarce.
Fantastic. And if you are curious about his channel, the link is in the description below. And let's go ahead and get started on this topic. So, Black Lives Matter, we've had some downright craziness over the last couple of weeks about George Floyd's death, and now the death of Brooks down in Georgia. I'd like to talk about each one of those separately. I think there are some real unique characteristics in each of those cases that I think really need to be focused on. First of all, of course, George Floyd's death, which we are, let's be honest, vastly familiar with at this point. Needless to say, I do believe that, yes, it was a criminal act by the police, and yes, those police officers do deserve to be sentenced, as they have already. So they have already been tried, and they are going to jail. So there's no issue there, and I think that the ones who have done this crime have been punished. But over the last few weeks, we have been going through multiple riots and protests. Now, every American has the right to protest. Don't get me wrong. I believe in your right to protest, even if I think you're an idiot about it. You still have the right to protest. There's no question there. What you don't have the right to do is start burning crap. That we have a problem with. When you start beating people and burning crap, we have an issue. So I think you have a very interesting perspective on this entire thing, if you would like to share it.
Yeah, you always pick the greatest topics to talk about. Yeah, so I actually am born and raised in Minnesota, the state where this all went down. I think it was a Tuesday that I was watching the news. I saw the clip. I was like, oh my, I was lost for words. And then that Friday, people were protesting. It was Friday night. People were protesting. I was like, you know what? Good for them. I hope those officers do get arrested. What they did was objectively wrong, and it disgusts me. And then Saturday, and here's the part that I found just shocking, was every member in George Floyd's family, even the resident native chief, said, "We want peaceful protests. We just peaceful. We just want to be peaceful." I was like, I respect that. Then I woke up the next morning and I saw that there was low-income housing on fire. then it happened in Houston. I was like, okay, he was originally from there. That makes sense. I was a little surprised when I found riots in Amsterdam. That shocked me. And now you have stuff like Chop, and you have stuff like Brooks that recently happened, and this whole firestorm that just sparked.
Well, like you said, there's nothing wrong with having peaceful protests when you're actually peaceful. When you start looting and burning things, we have an issue. The Constitution does protect your right to do protests. Again, I don't have to agree with your protests. You can do it. And I am, as a law-abiding American, more than excited to see protests actually work, because that's part of the way the Constitution was originally set up. Now, the looting and rioting and burning things, okay, so the protests are happening in these poor income areas, and a lot of Black families are in these poor income areas, or these shop owners are Black, and you're burning and looting their place. I mean, how does this make any sense in fighting this supposedly racism by burning and looting people of your own race?
Yeah, it especially affects the community that it happened to when you start burning down George Floyd's community that he lived in. That is also becomes kind of weird. But yeah, personally, I thought it was weird because it was like a week after Chauvin and his partners and his fellow officers were arrested, there was this woman in Minneapolis who said, "We will stop protesting once justice has been delivered." I was like, he's been charged with, at that point, it was third-degree murder. I was like, does that mean we can go home now?
When does it end? Where is this elusive justice? I think this is really what we're seeing within the United States, is the combination of years and years of people being told they're victims. You're a victim. You're a victim. You're a victim. You got the special victim status. Everything is against you. And it's like, no, unless you were a slave in the South, no, it really wasn't. In fact, now they have, I'll have to grab it here in a little bit, but they've taken off many of the Black people off of certain products. And I'm sitting there scratching my head saying, wait, why? Isn't it a good thing they're making money?
Aunt Jemima.
What?
Aunt Jemima.
Aunt Jemima. You know the whole story. I went out and bought a whole bunch of the Aunt Jemima's syrup because I loved it growing up, right? It's not a race thing. It's a good syrup. But as I actually started looking into Aunt Jemima and the history behind it, the original lady was not Aunt Jemima. Actually, I think she's Miss Green, was a slave. She was a slave that was freed. And then they gave her a job. They offered this job to her, said, hey, would you be the face of this product? And you can go around the United States. We'll pay for you to go around everywhere and sell this stuff. And she was a great saleswoman. She pushed it everywhere. She was great. She ended up being a millionaire, the first Black millionaire. It's like, wait, hold on. So you're taking her image off of there. Why? Because of racism? But this is literally a success story. This is from chains of slavery to millionaire. How is this not like their billboard should be like her? I don't get it. I really don't get it. It blows my mind why people do this. Now, with all that being said, no protests, fine. Looting, not fine. Chaz should be all charged with treason. I would give them. Chop. Whatever the flip. they want to call their so-called independent nation that has taken over by no sensation, by no decision of the people themselves who actually live there, by the way. It's just this single group who have guns who show up, but yet for some reason, Second Amendment shouldn't apply to everyone. It should only apply to those who want to take over sections of the United States. So what's so bad about this is George Washington had to deal with an uprising within his first term. And how he dealt with it? He went up there and kicked their rear ends. Tell you truthfully, I do like Trump for what he has done so far, but in this situation, I believe he is failing us. This should not be allowed. We are not allowed to declare independence while still taking Social Security or taking social benefits and then getting free food from the governor because the governor just doesn't give a crap and doesn't actually know that his city's been taken over by force. And using public porta potties, plus the electric bills being taken care of. So you're just getting all the electricity and you get internet. What you should do is if you just wanted to take this as a peaceful, say, okay, you know what? We're going to respect your decisions. That's fine. If you really want to be a jerk about this, how you do it. You say, okay, you want to be independent. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. No electricity, no internet, no food. Anyone that comes out gets arrested. Have fun. That's all you got to do. And within a week, it will be finished. The only reason this has been allowed to continue is because the mayor has continued to play this game, play this victimhood crap. I mean, by the time I split up this video, it could all be over anyway. I don't know. Yet, I don't speak into the future. I'm not able to see the future. That's not my spiritual gift. We already talked about discernment and getting that one instead. So, although the prophecy would have been a cool one. But, yeah, there's just no way that this could be let to continue. Definitely, if this starts happening in a lot more states, we're going to end up with, unfortunately, a race war at this point, if this continues. Now, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, Chop is. I didn't see Chaz and Chop coming. The reason they named the reason they changed their name from Chaz to Chop is because they wanted to change their name from Autonomous Zone, which would mean their own separate country, to Occupying Protests. And they did that so they can still receive welfare checks. And yeah, sorry to all those who watch this channel and happen to like people like Jay Inslee, but when he said I don't know about Chaz, I called bull.
How can you not know about your own city? It's your job.
Yeah, I mean, I just called bull on that. But yeah, I think I don't agree with Chop. I think I do not agree with it. I hope that I think it won't last that long, but as long as it does, it's just going to be in the news. But it's even now, ever since they changed their name, it's starting to go away. It's starting to leave the spotlight a little bit now that they've changed their name from Occupied Protests.
Well, hopefully it will go ahead and evaporate and will not go any further. Although if this is allowed to go without punishment, I do believe that we will see this happen again, unfortunately. And this will end up ending with a civil war. I have no doubt about that if it's allowed to continue. I've been saying that America, as we have turned our backs against God and have pursued our own sinful desires, have been going towards a civil war. And I think this is another step in it. I'm not saying I want a civil war. I'm saying that's a bad thing. I do not want that. But I am saying that that's down the line if we continue to go this way. I just know how this road ends. I don't want it to go down there. I want to go turn around and go the other way. But unfortunately, I do not have that big of a poll, and I don't even think they would listen to me anyway. So let's go ahead and talk about this whole case around Brooks. Do you know much about it?
Yes. So what happened was there was this man named I can never remember his first name. I know it starts with an A. Forgive me, but I don't remember it. But his last name was Brooks. He was passed out drunk in I think it was a Wendy's drive-through.
Yes, Wendy's drive-through.
And so these cops, they said, "Hey, get out of the car." The whole discussion was cordial. Well, most of the discussion was cordial. I watched the footage. Most of it was cordial, and that until they started putting the handcuffs on, then he fought back. He even flipped one of the cops off of him. While he did that, he stole one of the officer's tasers, ran, turns around, fires the taser at an officer. I think he missed, but that leads to the other officer fatally shooting him.
I guess there are a few corrections I'd have with that, just a bit more clarification on detail. First of all, it was the staff at Wendy's that called the cops because there's a guy passed out in the drive-thru. Don't know what he's on, don't know what's going on with him. The staff doesn't want to approach it. I mean, they're minimum wage people. They don't want to do this. It's not in their job description.
Yeah, so they called the
cops. I can't blame them. I mean, if we're looking at this saying, okay, at this point, this went wrong. You know, the cop did something wrong. Someone did something wrong. I'm going to try to go through the story and examine and point out where things went wrong. First of all, Brooks shouldn't have been driving. First of all, he obviously got there by driving. He wasn't parked there. He was in the drive-thru. He was still driving. He was still in control of the vehicle. He was passed out drunk. He was also a felon. He also have...
Oh, that I did not know.
Yes, he was also a felon who was on parole. Needless to say, drunk driving is a violation of your parole. And that was not a good thing for him. He was actually convicted of child abuse, which he beat the crap out of his kids. So not very high on my book already going into the story. Now, granted, we didn't know about that information until days and days after this whole thing went down. This is why normally whenever I look at the news stories or news stuff that's popping up, I say, okay, I want to know what the heck is going on. We need to wait a few days to get all this information before we start jumping to conclusions. So, of course, the news stories was unarmed black man shot at Wendy's drive-thru. Yeah, yes and no. He was
like unarmed
at one point. So continuing the story, obviously the staff at Wendy's didn't do anything wrong. I mean, what else would you expect them to do? Allow the drunk, passed out guy to stay there in the parking lot? No. Calling the cops makes sense. So the cops show up there, knock on the door, wake the guy up. I mean, they actually had to shake him to get him awake. He wakes up. They go through. They talk for 25 minutes. 25 minutes of engagement. Now, if this was a race-based thing, and the whole thing was the cop today went into the office and said, I'm going to shoot me a black man today. I just feel like shooting me a black man today. And as soon as I get a phone call from any place, you know, like Wendy's, I'm going to go there and I'm going to shoot me that black man. No. The cop shows up, knocks on the window, wakes the guy up, and they have a cordial conversation for 25 minutes. That's a long time. Now, if you've ever talked to someone who's drunk, sometimes it takes that long just to get some information out of them. I have. So, yes, that has happened. Sometimes it takes even longer than that, depending on it. But at that point, according to Georgia law, if you are drunk behind the wheel in control of the vehicle, or is obvious that you had to drive to a location while drunk, you are to be charged with drinking and driving. So the cops, what is their job to do at that moment? Examining that moment, they've got the statement from him, they got the statement from Wendy's. This guy's obviously drunk. He obviously drove here drunk. I mean, he didn't start drinking in the drive-thru, obviously, in order to become so drunk that he passes out. So what's the cop going to do? I mean, he has to arrest him, right? That's his job. His job is to arrest him at that point. So you go ahead and go to cuff him. Well, obviously, Brooks realizes that, oh crap, I'm going back to jail. I might have violated my parole just a little bit. So I'm going to fight these cops off in order to stop this. So, of course, he fights them off. He shoves one to the ground. He knocks his head on the concrete. In some cases, that has killed people in the past. How that officer fell could have broke his neck.
Yeah, that was...
So it's Officer A. Let's refer to the Officer A, the one on the ground. That got his head knocked, is the Officer A. Officer B is struggling with the guy. The guy pushes Officer B away. He grabs Officer A's taser, tases Officer A with the taser. So he does actually shoot the taser into the Officer A. Officer A is tased. Yes. He's on the ground. Yeah.
That's
Officer
the part
B then pursues. Officer B then pursues Brooks. Brooks turns, aims, shoots the taser at the second officer, missing. But by this point, Officer A, who has been knocked on the ground, who's got his head knocked into the concrete, and has been tased, stands up, takes aim. The only thing he knows that's going on is this perpetrator has already shown willingness to take a weapon from an officer, use it on that officer. I don't know exactly. If I was in his position, I don't know exactly what has happened. I don't know what has happened while I was tased on the ground. He could have grabbed my partner's gun for all I know and could be pointing it at my partner as we speak. So what is my job as a police officer when I see my partner being possibly gunned down right in front of me? Is my job to sit there and think, maybe I should let the perpetrator go? Or is it, shoot, I need to do something in order to protect my partner and myself, as well as the other civilians in this area? It was not that the perpetrator was just leaving. It is he was running and he turned to shoot. He showed active intent to cause harm again. So at that point is when the shots went. Yeah. When the officer shot. And let me tell you, that was those were some pretty cool shots to be able to do while your head is still ringing from being beat against the ground and being electrocuted. To be able to pull it together to make those shots, that is impressive.
Yeah, from what I saw, like of Brooks, when he grabbed the taser, he looked like he ran to. There was this car, and there was Brooks. He was over here, ran all the way to the car, turns around, aims, fires again, and that's when he gets shot.
So yeah, the media, the mainstream media, have taken this and blown this as being, oh, this is all about racism. And I'm like, no. You know how you can tell it's not about racism? Is because if you remove the skin color from the situation, if you remove the skin color completely, say, we're just going to say all of them were white. You know what? I will put myself in that perpetrator's shoes. Right? I'm going to put myself in Brooks' shoes. If I were in Brooks' shoes and I were, one, I wouldn't beat the crap out of my kids, so we wouldn't have this issue. Two, I wouldn't drink and drive, so we wouldn't have this issue. Three, I wouldn't resist arrest, so we wouldn't have this issue. All of those are points where it could have been stopped. All of those are points. Because if I believe that I was in the right then I can fight this in court. I have done that with police officers who have pulled me over for speeding, and it was an incorrect amount that they put on there, or that it was wrong that they pulled me over. And then I've gone to court and I've won against police officers. I've done that. You can do that. It is not impossible. But fighting against an officer like that never ends well for you. Never. You can fight him in court afterwards, but not like that. Say, you know what? I'm continue with this metaphor. I take the tip. I go ahead and fight him off. I take the taser. I shoot the first guy. I start running. I shoot the second guy. Would I expect to get shot by the first officer once he recovers? Yeah. I am going to get shot. I don't care what skin color you are. You take a gun for a weapon from an officer, use it against one officer, threaten to use it against the other officer, you will get shot. Plain and simple. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that one. So that's my point. Now, the aftermath of this, and this is what really pisses me off. And I know I don't normally use foul language, but there's no other way to describe it. That officer is now facing death row for defending. What? Oh, you didn't know that?
No, I knew he was being charged with a felony murder, but I didn't know he was facing death row.
That's what felony murder is in Georgia. Is death row. If he's convicted, there's a good chance he's going to death row. There's a slight chance that he might just get, like life in prison. But for most
we don't have the death penalty
here,
so I never thought about that.
So now, if felony murder is supposed to be, and this is where it makes no sense to me. Felony murder is murder that happens while you're committing a felony. Mm-hmm. For example, if I went and robbed a bank and shot one of the clerks, then yes, that's felony murder. But if you shoot someone in self-defense, no, in defense of another one, or even just plain old-fashioned kill someone, murder, straight and old-fashioned murder, no, it does not carry as much of a penalty as felony degree murder.
Yeah, because felony degree murder is like two crimes on top of one another.
Yes,
the crime that you were committing. The crime you were committing and the murder you committed while you were committing the other crime.
So my question is, DA, what on earth was he committing? What was the felony? Was the felony getting shot with a taser? Was the felony getting your head beat into the concrete? Was the felony showing up for your job that day? Was the felony replying to a call for help? Where was the felony? I think that's what they're going to have to prove in court. Although with this being politicized and this being an election for the DA, he's going for re-election, it's very obvious that this is more politically based than logically based, or even a pursuit of justice. Mm-hmm. So, yes, we need to, as Christians, speak out. We need to focus on this. We need to engage with this. What happened to George Floyd was wrong, and the perpetrators need to be convicted and sent to jail. But in this other case, no. And if we allow this, what message is this sending? I mean, if I was a police officer, I would quit. I'd quit today. In fact, if you are a police officer that's listening, quit. If they're even considering this for this guy, quit. Because anywhere in the United States, this could happen to you. Any place, this could happen to you. If this could happen down in Georgia, this can happen to you. And it could be just, you go in Monday morning, you think you're having a good day, you go to show up to a place, some perp decides to shoot you, you shoot in self-defense, now you're facing the death penalty. And you will not be able to go home to your wife and kids because of this. No, there's no way this can stand. And if this goes through, I expect to see a mass exodus of police officers, and I cannot blame them. We're going to have ourselves a Wild West pretty doggone soon. It's going to be Chaz everywhere. Oh, the Chazes. Yeah. Okay, so I think we have thoroughly covered that topic. Is there
Mm-hmm.
anything you would like to join in with this, or last statements you'd like to say?
Yeah, I think watching all the riots and stuff, I think it proves how inherently broken and evil, I'd say, man is, all the way from what Derek Chauvin did to people burning down massive cities. I think it just shows how inherently broken human beings are, and that's what the whole 21st century was about. Was if man can become educated enough, man will ascend and become better. No, in fact,
No.
no, the opposite is true. The 20th century was the bloodiest century in history. We've killed more people in that century than the previous 19 put together. And technology keeps on getting more advanced and more advanced and more advanced. And human beings aren't, instead of advancing with the technology, human beings are using this advanced technology to attack and hurt and kill others.
Your first time out here, huh? Yeah, it's a new pad, huh? Oh, boom. It's not that soft, huh? You say hi? No? Okay. Here we go. Here we go. There's a great place you can run, huh?